Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Cindy Cavoto, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me.
It is a real pleasure. You're joining us from Florida. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about why summer break feels like a myth for working moms. I love this topic. I'm obviously not a mom. I'm a dude, but I am a father of 6 children, and my wife and I are both professors, and we both, juggle, childcare and summer months and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like I can relate at least a little bit to what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm really excited to hear your insights and thoughts as we unpack this and try to better understand, like, what can we do to better support in particular, women, moms, as they're, going about their careers and families. As we get started, I just wanted to share a little bit about Cindy. Cindy is a productivity coach, clarity for big-hearted entrepreneurs, and systems for sustainable success is what she focuses on. She has so many great various accomplishments over the course of her career, and she likes to work with big-hearted, high-achieving individuals who feel stretched thin and are ready to regain clarity, energy, and purpose in their work and lives. Cindy, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
I just think that I can relate to who I help because I was that woman. I
Yeah.
was crazy busy, juggling a lot of stuff, 3 kids, college, new business, PTA, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I can certainly understand, the struggle. So yeah, that's why it's my sweet spot.
Yeah, excellent. And let's go ahead and start to frame this up. So, you have a track record of dealing with these issues. As I mentioned, I'm married. I actually just had about a week and a half ago, had my 23rd anniversary, and we have 6
Oh, wow.
kids. My wife and I together have gone through, I think, 7 different university degrees. We're both professors.
Wow.
Like, there's lots of things along the way that make it hard.
Mhm.
But we also are fortunate to have had each other and to lean on each other at various stages and whatnot. But all of that said, and I can point to challenging times for myself during my career. I can only imagine, and as I talk with my wife, she shares this too. Like, it's just exponentially harder, generally speaking, for women. So a lot of the things that I face, the challenges that I feel, the frustrations, the setbacks, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just amplified for women, working women, and for working moms. And so I'm excited to just have a better grasp and understanding of this topic as we have this conversation. I want to help my wife feel more like she has a summer break, and I would love for everyone listening, anyone who is in the audience today, to better understand that for their organizations, for the women they work with. Tell me why summer break feels like a myth for working moms.
Because it's hard for them. There's still a lot of responsibilities. They're still working. They have to manage the kids' schedules. They have to manage their schedule. And then they want to try to have a summer
Yeah.
all at the same time. So it becomes difficult. I mean, I actually was working with a client who said, you know what, the kids are going to be out of school. I've got to stop. And, we had a conversation about that because she was overwhelmed. She's like, I just can't do it all. I've got to pick somebody up. I've got to do this. And I think it was from lack of support. And I think sometimes that can be a factor is number one, lack of support. And number two, I think women sometimes we want to do it all because I think there's still a myth that we're expected to do it all.
Yeah.
And I try to, teach my clients, ask for help, have that conversation, with your husband, with your partner. Hey, I'm going to need a half a day on Friday. Can you help me? How can we support each other so that I can get some time, but it still feels good for you. And then the kids are still good. So I think it's just a matter of having those conversations. But as women, we have not always done that. So I think
Well,
it's
yeah,
time.
and I mean, there's a reason for that. It's,
Right.
socialized, especially certain generations.
Mhm.
I have four daughters, and I would like to think that maybe we've progressed enough that they're not going to have to deal with some of the same stuff that I know my wife did, and certainly my mom and my mother-in-law did, etc. So hopefully some of it's generational. Hopefully some of it we're growing past. But let's be honest. I mean, we're basically we have a patriarchal system that socializes women in a particular way, that
Correct.
they're there to be a support and a help to everyone else first.
Right.
They're there to sacrifice for their kids, for their family first, etc. All of those things. And so even if, a woman, is career minded and wants to try to have work life integration, like work harmony, whatever phrase you want to use, there's still often mom guilt involved. There's still just the pressures and kind of societal expectations involved. I mean, frankly, lots of studies have shown that women, in the aggregate, women disproportionately do way more of the housework, the child care, the elder care, all of that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, it's not that way in every home, but in
Right.
the aggregate, that's pretty convincing
Right.
evidence, that it's a struggle, and there's no wonder that women, working moms in particular, often feel this burnout issue. And I know in my home, in particular, it's just amplified during the summer months. It's hard, I think, for my wife all the
It is.
time, but I think it's amplified during the summer months because the kids aren't in school and they're at
Mhm.
home, and all of a sudden they're wandering around saying, "Oh, what am I going to do today?
I'm
I'm
bored. I'm
bored."
bored, Mom. Yeah.
They need structure. They need activities.
Yes.
They need stuff. And unless you're going to send them off to like a summer camp all summer, like
Mhm.
basically, all of a sudden they're home all day, and you got to figure out like how are you going to help them have a good summer.
Mhm.
And at least I know for my kids, just saying, "Oh, we're not going to do anything today. Mom and dad both have to work, just hang out." That's usually not a good answer to them.
No, 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 no. No, and something I had learned, thankfully, pretty early on, in my early years with my kids when they were little, was, a mom actually said to me, she said, "Have you ever thought of asking for help from one of the other moms for carpooling?"
Hmm.
And you know what? It was something that didn't occur to me. I was like, "Well, I can do it myself." She's like, "No, you need to ask for help. As mothers, as women, we're all working. Let's help each other. Hey, I'll take the kids in the morning. Can you pick them up?" Like strategies like that that can help women. Hey, let's get together and we'll do it together. You do something, I'll do something else.
And it really does go a long way. I remember my mom talking about that. I'm from a large family back in Ohio, and they basically put together, like, this is when I was a kid, so this is like back in the 70s, 80s. They put together like collectives, like at home mom, working mom, collectives where they actually had like formal documents and agreements on like how much people are going to contribute
Oh,
and blah blah
geez.
blah. But like
Okay.
the whole thing was like they recognize it's hard, and they're going to support each other through shared babysitting, through shared
Mm-hmm.
ride share, through all different means, right? To just try to help with that issue. Now, do we need something that formal, that structured? Usually not, honestly. You have
Mm-hmm.
it takes a village, right? That's the saying. And
Right.
and you just have
Yes.
your friends, and you have other people,
Yes.
the kids your kids play with, talk to their
Yep.
parents, and
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
carpools and those sorts of things. And it really does go a long way. I know, like at our home, one of our tendencies, I think both my wife and I both think and really prefer, like if our kids are going to be playing with friends, we prefer for them to be at our house playing with friends.
Same.
Um,
Same.
just for a variety of reasons.
Correct.
But guess what? That's a burden we don't have to take on.
Yep.
Like their parents are probably just as excited to have their friends come over and be at their house. And it is more work if you have friends over. And, like there's just things like that. Now, you've mentioned a couple times the asking for help issue.
Hmm.
And again, I think this is something that often gets socialized
Yes.
into, the mindset of, I should be helping other people, not asking for help from them. Or
Right.
if I ask for help, it shows that I'm not capable or competent as a mom. Or, this kind of self-talk, the narratives that I think often happen. I mean, let's be honest, we're human. Everyone has those types of thoughts, but I do think they tend to be a little bit more pronounced. When we're talking about this kind of a segment, of wanting it all. Like, if I can only imagine, but because I'm not a woman, but if I'm a woman, if I'm a working mom, and I'm trying to demonstrate to everyone that I have it all, that I can do it all, that I'm a good mom, that I'm successful in my career. If I start asking, I can understand that, like, if I start asking people for help for various things, they may not think that I can do it all. They may not think that I have it all together. They may not think that I'm as successful as I want to be. And again, that's a human thing.
That
Like
is right.
men have that
Right.
kind of stuff too, but it's a little different for women. And I think
It is.
that's something that working moms often are battling.
And I think, I think men just, like you said, don't have that expectation. It's not expected of them.
Yeah,
So I think we just take it on and we don't want to help for, ask for help because maybe we might look weak to somebody else. And that's not what we want. We want to take it all and we want to, I mean, that was me. I took it all on and I did it really well because, that was important to me. But I could do just, no one's judging. And I think that's also something too. We just try to help each other. And it's okay to ask for your employer if you're working and if you're not working for yourself, hey, summer's coming up. How can we adjust my schedule so that it feels good for the both of us? But women aren't we're reluctant to ask that because, it makes us look like, oh, we can't do it. No, it just means that we're aware and we want to make some accommodations to make sure that our work gets done and that our kids are taken care of and that everything else is taken care of. And I think we need to work together. And as things have changed, all moms are basically working in some capacity a little bit
yeah,
nowadays. And
yeah.
employers have to realize that, and whether you're working for someone or you're working for yourself, we're all doing it now. So how as a society can we just be a little more sensitive to that? So,
Yeah, I agree. Just being willing to have those conversations, I get that that's a hard
mhm,
conversation to have, especially if you're feeling like you're still trying to prove yourself in your job with a new boss, whatever. That can feel tenuous, I suppose. And I totally want to validate that, and I totally get it. Um, but also think about the burnout factor and think about, like,
right.
how good are you going to look to your boss and to your new job and your organization if you're overwhelmed and if you're burned out and if you're continuously burning the candle at both ends,
Right.
which is not sustainable. And you may be able to put in the time, but putting in the time is not the same thing as like being productive and creative and innovative and like
That's
all the
correct.
heavy cognitive load stuff that you only have so much bandwidth for. Like, that's just the fact.
And it's
People
the
can only do so
quality.
much.
Right. It's the quality of the time that you're doing too, for your work. Do you want to be a better mom? Well, if you want to be a better mom, you've got to be a happy mom. Good moms are happy moms, that's how it goes. And I think, but that also includes self-care, asking for help, using your tools and your resources so that you are productive. It's
Hmm.
okay to do some self-care. That's not something that we encourage that. Please do because then when you're on, you're full on. You're 100% in. And that's better than being not 100%, and just being crazy. So, yeah.
And I want to double click on that. So,
Yep.
because one thing I hope that we can explore a little bit is, like, what can employers do? Whether you're a male ally or you're a female boss or whatever. Like, what if we're aware of this issue and that summer months are particularly challenging, particularly for working moms? What can we do to make it easier, to make it better for them? And the awareness is the first step, right? But then, if you recognize that maybe this isn't the thing that a lot of your people aren't going to come to you with proactively, maybe one thing to suggest is just have, like, there's no substitute for knowing your people. So if you're having your regular one-on-ones and your people and even just a little bit about their lives, but also about what they do with their work and how productive they are and all that kind of stuff, like, just have a proactive conversation with them as a
Right.
boss, saying, "Hey, summer months coming up. I know the kids are going to be out of school. What can we do to help accommodate you, over
Exactly.
the next few months? My goodness, I bet if you were to say those words to a frazzled working mom,
Oh yeah,
sh-
that's
she would probably
everything.
love you to death.
That's everything. Absolutely. That is everything. You know what? Just to first be acknowledged. And then, you know what? I always tell people, when you go to negotiate or when you're talking, it's a conversation. You're talking about it, right? It's not a demand. It's, hey, you know what? Summer's coming up. How can we make this feel good for both of us? What's going to work for you? What's going to work for me? What are your expectations? What are my expectations? It's a conversation. Let's figure it out. What does it look like? Maybe we build it together. So that's what I try to encourage, even my clients to do. Just have that conversation because you might be surprised. A lot of times we're so busy we don't realize, oh, do you need help? I didn't realize, that kind of thing. And I think that's what employers have to be aware of is maybe kind of just being a little, proactive instead of reactive. We all want to be productive, and productivity can still stay the same, maybe if we make some little tweaks. And that I think is important to know.
Yeah, yeah. So that everyone knows it's better to be proactive than reactive, right? We say that all the time in a variety of,
Mhm.
for a variety of things, different types of circumstances and contexts. And this is just another one. Like, of course, it's to nobody's benefit to have that frazzled working mom who's trying to do everything and is, shows up late to a meeting because they're trying to get their kid off to a day camp or something, like it doesn't do anyone any good to
Yeah.
just pretend like that's not there and then you have to deal with it, right? Like just understand and recognize, yeah, this is what's happening. We're going to be a family friendly organization. Like we recognize you have a life outside of work and that
Right.
we're going to honor and support that in appropriate ways. Like that's an easy thing to do. Um, but sometimes it does require a little bit of a culture shift, a little bit of a mindset shift, especially
Mhm.
if your organization is one that kind of has the old school butts and seats mentality.
Mm.
Um, I get that certain jobs are like that, but like the vast majority of working professionals don't have jobs like that. Like we have jobs where it doesn't necessarily matter. Like what hours are you clocked in or out, if you even
Right.
have to clock in or out, like butts and seats, like it's more about your productivity. It's more about your ability to get the work done at high quality. And if you can recognize that and support that, everyone's going to be better off. You're going to have better products. You're going to have better outcomes from the work that people do when they're feeling the accommodation, the support, when they have the flexibility. There's so much research on the value of flexibility in employee satisfaction, engagement, and how those connect to productivity gains, culture gains, innovation gains, all of those sorts of things. And so that's, yeah, first step, be aware. Second
Yeah.
step, be proactive, have a
Yeah.
conversation. What else would you recommend to anyone trying to be supportive of working moms this summer?
I just would say, you know what? Ask questions.
Mm,
Don't judge. Ask questions. What's going on? How can I, just be supportive. If you have a friend that's a mom, she's working, just, hey, reach out. Hey, how's it going? How's your summer going? How you juggling things? I just think having those conversations, I think with people, just make everyone aware, and to your other point, I just want to touch on that. You mentioned that things are different. The culture is different than years ago. We changed with COVID, right? Now we kind of, everybody can work from home a little bit for the most part. This also needs to be something on our radar. Yeah, we adjusted for COVID. What about adjusting for the moms that stay home and work? Because when we stay home, our kids are with us. Maybe
right.
not so much with men, it's a little bit different. So I think
Yeah.
there needs to be a little bit of shift like COVID for this kind of, so there's no burnout for moms. So moms can stay steady and be productive and get things done and get support, and just that anxiety of getting rid of the anxiety of knowing that summer's coming. That can be a big thing for a mom. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, it's April. What am I doing for camp? What am I doing for this?
Right.
That's a big deal. That's like a big plan. So, you know what? To eliminate that anxiety, talk about it, make a plan, get a plan in place. And maybe it looks different for everybody. But I think,
Yeah.
you know what, I think just having the conversation and seeing what you can do, is the first step, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And with COVID, we know that in many ways it opened up the aperture of our understanding around work, like in what work can be and assumptions that we had had for a long time that could be busted. But also, and that's positive in many ways. But also, we know from research that women collectively kind of took a step back during COVID, in terms of parity in the workforce, because again, they took on the undue burden of all the childcare while their kids were home from school and all
Right.
that kind of
And
stuff.
trying to learn from
and
from
and
home.
now
Yeah,
we're to this point, where we have many CEOs doing return to office mandates, and those sorts of things. Now, is there a time and a place for certain workers to be required to be in person? Of course, and
absolutely.
maybe a return to office mandate makes sense for your organization, but generally speaking, as a kind of a general way of thinking about it, I mean, the research doesn't support these return to office mandates as a sweeping kind
A
of
blanket thing,
edict
sure.
for everybody, and it
Yep,
disproportionately, predominantly negatively hurts working moms,
right,
and women, and so we need to be aware of that, and there better be a really good darn good reason if you're doing a return to office mandate, and if you don't have that really good compelling reason, be thinking about the perhaps unintended negative impacts that it's going to have on different populations.
right.
Well, Cindy, this has just been a great conversation. I
Well,
know at the
thank
time
you.
I need to let you go here in just a minute, but before we wrap things up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you and find out more about your work, and then give us the final word for today.
Okay, all right. So you can connect with me through my website, Cindy, just as it sounds, cindycavoto.com, CindyCavoto. You can reach out to me there, send me an email. I'm happy to connect with you. And then just some final thoughts are, I think we need to work together. Being productive and being organized doesn't have to be that hard.
Hmm.
And I just think we just need to think about it. The bottom line is everyone wants to get their work done and they want to get it done correctly. And what does that look like? Does it mean working 9 to 5? Not anymore. So I think we
Yeah.
just need to be open to some shifts, employers and employees and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. Cindy, well said. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you sharing your time, your insights with me and the audience. As always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.